It takes a lot of time and effort to discern what value another person has to offer. And it takes investment to develop relationships with others. And to some extent, if that investment is to succeed, it has to begin before you have adequate evidence of the value that the other person offers. Moreover, there's value in being in a community of people who are doing well. And a person is not necessarily entirely without value just because he has some flaw, even some moral flaw. For both reasons, we need a virtue concerned with prospecting for human gold, so to speak, with looking for the potential for valuable relationships with others. That virtue, which David Kelley introduced, is called benevolence. Benevolence calls our attention to the good potential that may exist even in a flawed person. It asks us to remember that we haven't seen everything about a person. Now, that doesn't mean that we disregard the flaws. Benevolence is not in contradiction to justice. It does mean that we don't rush to condemn, that we continue to look for good potential even in those that we don't know about and those that we don't know enough about, that we continue, where it isn't overwhelmed, to value that which is good, even in a person in whom we've seen some bad. Benevolence includes extending assistance to others, including in the context of relationships, but even beyond that. Benevolence can include material assistance, such as emergency rescue, based on the potential value of the other person. Benevolence also reminds us of the value of the custom of helping people in emergencies, because after all, you might be in an emergency at some point. And often in such cases, there's a lot more value to be gained by the person receiving assistance than it costs the person providing it. Benevolence also includes spiritual assistance. That is, assistance pertaining to the person's character and mind. Spiritual assistance can come in the form of offering opportunities, as can material assistance. Spiritual assistance can come in the form of offering incentives or offering advice. One form of spiritual assistance that I offer is something I call Your Life is Worth an Hour, where I've made a commitment to everybody I know, even just well enough to be Facebook friends, that if you're considering killing yourself, I'm willing to give an hour of my time talking to you and trying to help you see the value in your own life. Why is this valuable to me? Because if the person really does have potential, and I've helped him decide to live, I hope to get some benefit from that potential through friendship and other forms of trade. Benevolence isn't mentioned in Galt's speech, but the speech itself can be understood as an act of benevolence. Giving that speech took a lot of effort. He had to write the speech, and he had to hijack the country's airwaves to make himself heard. The people listening haven't done anything for him. Their only effort is to turn on the radio, to hear what they expect will be a speech by Galt's enemy. Most of them, presumably, haven't done anything to go on strike or reject the looters' code. If things keep going the way they're going, most of those people will starve to death. Why does John Galt give them a speech? To give them a chance. And why does he want to give them a chance? Because he realizes that they have the potential to be of value to him, even if they're not very valuable yet. If they're rational enough to want to know what's going on, maybe they'll be rational enough to do something about it, to let the looter state collapse, and to make sure they survive. And then he'll be able to trade with them in the world he will have built. Galt uses the word owes. I don't think that's literally true. John Galt's speech isn't a payment of a debt. It's an act of benevolence. Surviving the collapse of the looter's state and being part of his new world is only part of what he's inviting them to do. More importantly, he's inviting them to return to reason and to pursue the value of their own lives. He wants to trade with them again, but only once they recognize what they are capable of and live up to it. You failed to recognize the hero in your soul, and you failed to know me when I passed you on the street, he says. When you cried in despair for the unattainable spirit which you felt had deserted your world, you gave it my name, but what you were calling was your own betrayed self-esteem. You will not recover one without the other. If Galt only exercised justice, he might say, they don't think they can accomplish much, and the way they're living, they're right. Sure, they have potential, but through their own choices, they've let it go to waste. But Galt goes beyond justice. He acts with benevolence and says, they could still recover their self-esteem. They could choose to think, and they could choose to live. And I want them to do that.